Hey folks, get ready to hear a tale that might just flip your understanding of life and what lies beyond. It centers around a guy whose brush with death turned his worldview upside down, leading him on a remarkable journey. This isn't just any story, it's about how he transitioned from a dedicated Muslim to Orthodox Christianity after experiencing hell's depths. You'll want to stick around because this revelation about the afterlife is bound to shift how you view existence. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you can catch more transformative stories like this one. And hey, a thumbs up and a share would really help spread the word. Alright, let's get into it. I'm Omar Faris, and I spent 47 years deeply rooted in my Muslim faith. I rigorously adhered to Islamic teachings, prayed 5 times a day, observed fasting during Ramadan, and undertook the pilgrimage to Mecca. Then everything took a turn. Yes, I actually died. I know it seems far-fetched, but during those fleeting moments between life and death, I encountered experiences that shook me profoundly. But first, let me rewind a bit and share a glimpse of my life before that fateful event. I was raised in a loving Muslim family in a quaint town in Pakistan. My parents ingrained Islamic values in me from a very young age, and I embraced our traditions wholeheartedly. I memorized extensive parts of the Quran, delved into Islamic law, and committed myself to living out the principles of Muhammad. With the passing years, my faith only solidified, and I became a respected figure in my community, admired for my devotion. I led prayers at our local mosque, taught Quran classes to children, and delivered speeches on Islamic teachings. I genuinely believed I was destined for paradise, proud of my commitment. I was fortunate enough to marry an amazing Muslim woman named Amina, and together we were blessed with 3 wonderful children. We nurtured them in our faith, just as our parents had done for us. Life felt fulfilling, yet as my 47th birthday approached, I started grappling with an unsettling emptiness. Despite my unwavering faith and righteous actions, something felt amiss. It was hard to identify, but a persistent sense of incompleteness loomed over me. I tried to dismiss these feelings, thinking it was just a typical midlife crisis. Diving deeper into my spiritual practices seemed like the answer, a way to finally grasp the peace I'd been searching for. I prayed fervently and poured myself into good actions, yet that hollow feeling stubbornly remained. Then came the pivotal moment that shifted everything. I awoke before dawn, ready to begin my day with prayers. As I knelt on my prayer rug, focused on Mecca, a sharp agony pierced my chest. Initially, I dismissed it, convincing myself it was just indigestion. However, the discomfort intensified, radiating down my left arm. I managed to call out to Amina, my voice barely a whisper. She hurried in, her expression shifting from calm to panic as she saw me clutching my chest and struggling to catch my breath. Her eyes widened as realization struck. "Heart attack," she murmured, grabbing her phone to dial for help. In those frantic moments, everything felt surreal, shrouded in pain and chaos. I could hear her voice, high and frantic, relaying urgent details to the emergency dispatcher. In the midst of it all, I caught sight of my kids peering in from the hallway. I yearned to reassure them, to let them know I'd be okay, but the words just wouldn't emerge. My breath was rapidly becoming a challenge, and a wave of fear engulfed me. It wasn't just the pain or the thought of dying, it was the uncertainty of what lay ahead. For the first time, I questioned everything I believed. What if I was mistaken? What if there was no truth in my faith? Those nagging thoughts circled my mind just as the paramedics burst in. They operated with urgency, attaching monitors to my chest and offering me oxygen. I overheard snippets of their conversation, terms like critical and immediate intervention piercing through my fog of fear. By the time they wheeled me toward the ambulance, I knew the situation had escalated. I stole a glance at my family, their faces etched with terror. Amina was trying to stay composed, but her eyes betrayed her fear. My children were in tears, clinging to their mother's side. I wanted to express my love and assure them we would get through this, but I simply couldn't muster the strength. As the ambulance raced through Alabama's streets, its sirens blaring, the paramedics worked frantically to keep me stable, while I felt increasingly detached. The pain in my chest was relentless, and breathing grew more difficult by the moment. Nearing the hospital, everything began to dim, sounds distorted, as if I were submerged underwater. I experienced an odd sensation, almost as if I were floating, as though I was slowly separating from my body. My last clear thought was a plea, not to Allah as I typically would, but rather to a deity I hadn't encountered before. Then everything faded to black. I honestly couldn't tell how long I had been unconscious. It could have been mere seconds or dragged out over hours. When I finally opened my eyes, the surroundings were unfamiliar. Instead of the ambulance or hospital, I found myself in an expansive, dark void. There was an absolute absence of light and sound, filled with an overwhelming emptiness that made me feel lost and bewildered. Was this what death was? The afterlife they often spoke of? As I stood there piecing things together, I noticed something peculiar. The chest pain that had plagued me was entirely gone. In fact, I felt nothing at all. Looking down at myself, I expected to see the clothes I had last worn, only to find a soft, glowing outline where my body used to be. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I called into the darkness, but my voice echoed back to me without a reply. I was utterly alone in this strange, shadowy realm, and unease began to settle in. This bleakness was far from the images of judgment I had expected. There were no angels here to quiz me about my life. It was all so different from what I had learned about death and what follows. As I lingered in confusion and trepidation, I had no idea that my true journey was just beginning. Little did I know that I was on the brink of an experience that would reshape everything I believed. My current faith was shrouded in darkness, while a new light awaited me, one that would completely alter my perspective on life. Just when I thought I would remain lost in that somber void, something began to shift. In the distance, a small pinprick of light emerged, resembling a star in the night sky. At first, I assumed it was a figment of my imagination, yet it kept growing brighter and larger. I felt an irresistible pull toward it, an urge that compelled me to move closer. As I walked toward this light, its intensity increased, but it didn't hurt my eyes. Instead, it enveloped me in a warmth I had never experienced before. All at once, the light surrounded me. It was blindingly bright, eliminating all else from my view, yet there was no fear within me. This light felt alive, thrumming with energy and a profound love. Love, that was the only term that fit. In that moment, I experienced a sense of complete and unconditional love. I knew I was in the presence of something, or someone, far greater than anything my mind had ever conceived. This experience deviated from all my expectations. It felt deeply personal, distinctly real. Then, a voice reached me. It felt as though the voice enveloped me completely, resonating not just around me, but also within me. It was an extraordinary experience, both mighty and soothing, commanding yet filled with love. "Omar," it said, sending a shiver of excitement through me at the sound of my name. "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Those words struck me powerfully, like a sudden flash of lightning. They stirred a faint memory, but my mind was too foggy to pinpoint where I had heard them before. All I knew was that they resonated with a profound truth I had never experienced before. Curiosity mixed with disbelief, I questioned, "Who are you?" My voice trembled slightly. "I am Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God," was the calm reply. I was taken aback. Jesus? That was a notion I struggled with since I was raised in a Muslim family that regarded him strictly as a prophet. Yet there I stood, encompassed by a sense of love and tranquility I had never known. "I'm not a Christian," I stumbled over my words. "I've followed Islam my entire life." With warmth and conviction, he reassured me. "I have always known you, Omar. My love for you has been unwavering. Now, it's time you discover the truth." As he spoke, stunning images flared to life in my mind. I witnessed the humble birth of Jesus in a stable, his teachings, miracles, and healings. I saw him crucified, and to my astonishment, rise from the grave. It felt vivid, like I was experiencing those moments firsthand. Suddenly, the images transitioned. I found myself gazing at magnificent cathedrals adorned with golden domes, intricately designed icons, and serene men in splendid robes leading solemn services filled with incense and sacred chants. People were bowing with reverence, crossing themselves and kissing icons, their faces expressing deep devotion. Overcome by the beauty and enigma of these visions, I asked, "What is all of this?" "This is my church, Omar," Jesus replied gently. "The Orthodox faith has preserved my teachings since the time of my apostles." Confusion settled in. I had heard about Orthodox Christianity but struggled to grasp its significance. "Lord," I responded, "I thought all Christian denominations were alike." "No, dear Omar," he addressed me softly. "This tradition has maintained the genuine faith unchanged since the days of the apostles. This is the path I want you to choose." A deep sense of correctness flooded over me, as if the pieces of a long, unsolved puzzle were finally falling into place. The reverence and beauty captured in those images resonated deeply within my soul. "You have been seeking me all your life, Omar," Jesus continued. "Even when you didn't realize you were seeking me, that emptiness you felt was your soul yearning for its true home." His statement hit me like a ton of bricks. It was undeniable. After years of devotion and countless prayers, I had never truly felt fulfilled. Yet in his presence, for the first time, I sensed a sense of wholeness enveloping me. "Okay, but what about Islam? What's the deal with Muhammad?" I inquired. Jesus took on a serious tone. "Amina, there are many people misled by false teachings. You need to uncover the truth." In an instant, the warm light that had filled the space vanished, plunging me into a dark abyss filled with despair. The air thickened with the acrid smell of sulfur, and distant screams pierced through the silence. My heart raced as the overwhelming realization dawned on me. I was witnessing hell. As my eyes adjusted to the dimness, a figure appeared far away, writhing in anguish. Drawing closer, I could hardly take it in. To my utter disbelief, it was Amina, the figure I had revered all my life, being tormented by demonic entities. I wanted desperately to look away, but I was rooted to the spot. His face contorted in pain as he begged for mercy, but mercy was nowhere to be found. Only an eternity of suffering awaited him. "What's happening to him?" I barely managed to whisper, my voice trembling. "Why is he here?" "Because he misled many away from the true path," Jesus answered, a sadness lacing his voice. "He denied my divinity and the significance of my sacrifice. He forged a false faith, preventing millions from encountering the truth." I could hardly bear to watch as the demons continued their torment, ridiculing him, echoing every misleading teaching he had shared and every soul he had turned away from Christ. It was too painful to observe. "But what about all the positive things he preached?" I pleaded, clutching at straws. "What about charity, prayer, and good deeds?" "Without faith in me, they hold no weight," Jesus replied with a gentle tone. "I am the only path to the Father. No one comes to the Father except through me." As he spoke, I began to notice a multitude of other souls around us, all suffering. Some were familiar from history, while others were complete strangers, yet they shared a common fate. They had rejected Christ and led others down the same path. "This is the destiny of anyone who turns away from me," Jesus stated sadly. "But Amina, this is not my desire for any soul. I sacrifice myself for the chance at eternal life for everyone. My love is there for all, but each person must choose to accept it." With those final words, the scene transformed once more. It was like stepping into a warm embrace, filled with love and light, when I suddenly glimpsed a breathtaking vision of heaven. The beauty surpassed anything I ever dared to dream. Colors danced with radiance, the music was a soothing melody, and a sense of joy overflowed beyond anything I'd experienced on earth. All around me, people from countless nations, tribes, and dialects worshipped Jesus in unison. Their expressions were beacons of joy that filled the air. I recognized some of the saints, like St. John Chrysostom, St. Basil the Great, and St. Gregory the Theologian. They led the heavenly choir, their voices melding into an exquisite harmony. In that profound moment, a realization washed over me. This was what my soul had craved all along. It was the real communion with God I had been seeking and never found in the beliefs I once held. "This is what I offer you," Jesus spoke gently. "It's not just for you, but for everyone who believes in me and joins my church. This is the sanctuary I've prepared for those who love and follow my teachings." As I drank in the splendor of heaven and recalled the haunting images of hell, my heart shattered. I had been misguided for so long. All the devotion and good deeds I amassed were based on shaky ground. I found myself kneeling, completely overwhelmed by the truth piercing my heart. "Lord Jesus," I cried out, "I believe in you. Forgive me for all those years I turned away. Save me and lead me to your church." A comforting hand rested on my shoulder, and a flood of love and forgiveness enveloped me. In that instant, I knew I was saved. All my sins and misapprehensions were washed away by his grace. Welcome home, my child, Jesus beamed. You have a journey ahead to grow and learn in the Orthodox faith, but I'll be with you every step of the way. Just then, I felt a gentle pull, and the beautiful vision around me began to fade. Distant voices reached out to me. It's not your time yet, Omar, Jesus reassured. You need to return. There are many who need to hear the truth you've uncovered. But I don't want to leave your presence, I said, my eyes stinging with tears. I will always be with you, Jesus replied. One day you'll return for good. For now, though, you have work to do. Seek out my church, learn its ways, and share its truth with others. With those words, darkness enveloped me once more. I felt myself falling, and then I opened my eyes. Suddenly, I was back in a hospital room, surrounded by the soft beeping of machines and anxious faces. Amina was there, holding my hand tight, tears flowing freely down her cheeks. My kids were there, a blend of confusion and relief etched on their faces. "He's awake!" Amina shouted, and in an instant, a doctor hurried over to check on me. "Mr. Ferris, you really had us worried," he said, as he monitored my vital signs. "You were clinically dead for several minutes. It's truly a miracle you're back with us." I couldn't help but agree. It truly felt miraculous. If only they knew the depth of what I had experienced and the revelations that were now clear to me. While the doctor continued his examination and detailed what had transpired, my thoughts were racing. I had crossed over, witnessed both heaven and hell, met Jesus, and felt a call toward the Orthodox Church. How would I even begin to share this incredible journey with my family and my community? I sensed the challenge ahead. Many would question my story, and some could turn against me. Yet, there was no way I could keep quiet. The truth I had discovered was too significant and life-altering to conceal. Lying there, still needing time to regain my strength but filled with determination, I resolved to find a way to communicate my experience. With a newfound sense of purpose igniting within me, I made a quiet vow to immerse myself in the teachings of the Orthodox Church, fully explore its doctrines, and share the message of Jesus Christ with anyone open to hearing it. I was eager to convey his love, his sacrifice, and the salvation he offers. My transition from being a devout Muslim to embracing Orthodox Christianity was just beginning. With Jesus walking by my side, I felt equipped to confront whatever obstacles lay ahead. His love illuminated my beliefs in a way I'd never imagined, and there was no turning back now. As I spent more days in the hospital, I found myself with ample time for reflection. The memory of my encounter with Jesus remained vibrant, alongside the troubling vision of Muhammad's suffering in hell and the serene moments of Orthodox worship I'd glimpsed in heaven. The urge to share what I had witnessed was strong, but I also recognized the potential risks involved. My family had been noticing my transformation. Amina, in particular, realized I had stopped my Islamic prayers, while my kids seemed puzzled by my newfound interest in Jesus and questions about Orthodox churches. Initially, they thought I was just disoriented from my near-death experience, but as the days went by, it became clear to them that something profound had changed. One day, Amina looked at me, her voice filled with concern. "Hassan, what's happened to you? Why are you talking about Jesus in this Orthodox faith? We're Muslims, remember?" I took a moment to collect myself. This was going to be a difficult chat. "Omar, my dear," I began gently, "I've had experiences that flipped my world upside down. I met Jesus, and he showed me the truth, inviting me to his church." She stared at me, wide-eyed, taken aback. "Oh," she exclaimed, uttering an Arabic phrase requesting forgiveness from Allah. "Amina, you can't be serious. This is blasphemy." "It's not blasphemy, Omar. It's the truth. Jesus is real. He is the Son of God, and his church offers the genuine path to salvation. I even saw Muhammad suffering in hell for leading people astray." The moment I said that, I realized I had rushed in headfirst. Omar recoiled as if I'd struck her, and then she stormed out, tears streaming down her face. I could hear her sobbing in the hallway. My children were equally shocked. My eldest, Ahmad, fixed me with a look of bewilderment and anger. "Father, how can you speak like this? You raised us with Islam. How can you abandon everything now for some foreign faith?" Seeing the hurt reflected in their expressions tore me apart, but I couldn't turn away from what I had discovered. I understood this was hard to accept, but I wasn't going to backtrack. I had found the truth in Jesus Christ and his church, and it was important for me to share that with all of them. The following weeks turned out to be incredibly tough. News of my conversion spread like wildfire in our community. Friends vanished, phone calls stopped, and even my family began to shy away. I became branded a traitor, an apostate, and even labeled a madman. The imam from our local mosque visited me, attempting to set me straight, claiming I was just confused and had fallen victim to Satan. But I stood firm. What I had experienced was undeniable, and my faith in Jesus remained unshakable as I desired to join the Orthodox Church. As I grew stronger and prepared to leave the hospital, it dawned on me. There was no going back. I could no longer lead prayers at the mosque or teach the Quran. I couldn't fake belief in what I now recognized as falsehood. On the day I was discharged, Omar was there to pick me up. The atmosphere in the car felt heavy, thick with unspoken words. Finally, she broke the silence, saying, "Amina, I don't understand what has happened to you, but I can't support this. You need to return to Islam, or I don't know if I can stay with you." Her words cut deep, but I couldn't say I was surprised. I had been bracing for this moment. "Omar, I love you," I replied. "I can't ignore what I believe in. I really hope that one day you'll see it too and share this incredible faith with me." But when we returned home, the atmosphere remained tense. Our once cozy house now felt cold and distant. The Islamic art and symbols that used to bring me comfort suddenly felt hollow and insignificant. That night, lying in bed and tossing and turning, I found myself praying to Jesus. "Lord," I softly said, "please give me strength. Help me find your church and help my family recognize the truth." Almost instantly, a sense of calm enveloped me. Jesus' promise echoed in my mind, "I will always be with you." I realized that through all of this, I was not alone. The following day, I embarked on a quest to locate an Orthodox church. It wasn't the easiest task in a predominantly Muslim place, but eventually I discovered a small Russian Orthodox mission on the city's outskirts. My heart raced with both excitement and nerves as I prepared to attend my first divine liturgy. Stepping inside, I was mesmerized by the church's beauty. The vibrant icons, the fragrant incense, the melodic chanting. It all felt surreal yet comforting, like a scene from a long-forgotten dream. As the service unfolded, I found tears brimming in my eyes. In that moment, reality struck me. This was the vision of heaven I had envisioned. I felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. After the service, I spoke with Father Luciano DeMarco. Sharing my story, I braced myself for disbelief, but he listened intently, warmth shining in his eyes. "My child," he replied once I finished, "God moves in mysterious ways. You've been drawn to his church, and we embrace you wholeheartedly. However, the journey won't be smooth. Are you prepared for the trials ahead?" I nodded, grappling with both fear and determination. "Yes, Father, I anticipate difficulties, but I'm convinced this is the truth. I'm eager to learn all about the Orthodox faith." Father Luciano smiled at me. "Then let's begin your catechism. There is much to discover, but God will be with you all along the way." And just like that, my journey into Orthodoxy commenced. I devoted every spare moment to the church, immersing myself in my new faith, participating in services, and preparing for baptism. The beauty of Orthodox beliefs, their profound spirituality, and the richness of traditions filled the void that had lingered for so long. Still, while I was nurturing my newfound faith, chaos reigned at home. Amina and I hardly communicated, and when we did, our conversations often ignited into heated arguments. My children seemed distant, struggling to connect with this transformed version of their father. The most challenging moment came when Amina finally laid everything on the table. "Omar," she said, her voice quivering, "I've really tried to understand, but I just can't. You have to let go of this Christian nonsense and return to Islam, or I'm taking the kids and leaving." It felt as if my heart was shattering. My family meant everything to me, but turning my back on Jesus and his church was something I couldn't do, not after all I had experienced. "Amina," I managed to say, holding back my tears, "I love you and the kids more than you realize, but I can't renounce Jesus and his church. They embody the truth, the sole path to salvation. I hope that someday you'll come to see that and join me in this beautiful faith." Just 2 days later, Amina, along with the children, was gone. The house, once vibrant with laughter and joy, felt eerily still and empty. I had lost everything: my family, my community, my previous life. Yet amidst that profound sorrow, I found solace in Christ's presence, feeling strengthened as I dove deeper into the teachings of Orthodoxy. Father Sergei became more than just a guide. He turned into a true friend, supporting me on this journey. As the weeks passed, I began to deeply explore my faith, the Holy Trinity, the Incarnation, and the significance of the Divine Liturgy. Each new insight felt like reclaiming a part of myself I hadn't known was missing. After months of catechism, the long-awaited day of my baptism arrived. Standing in the baptismal font alongside Father Sergei as he recited those time-honored prayers, I was enveloped in a profound peace. Emerging from the waters, I was renamed John, after St. John of Damascus, a staunch defender of orthodoxy. It genuinely felt like I was embarking on a fresh start. The ensuing months were a challenging yet fulfilling blend of experiences. I found myself somewhat isolated from my Muslim friends and navigated through feelings of loneliness, but there was also a newfound joy in nurturing my faith. I committed to attending every service possible, observed fasting according to the church calendar, and began practicing the Jesus Prayer. One day, while I was tidying up the church post-service, Father Sergei approached me, a contemplative look on his face. "John," he began, using the name I had received at baptism, "I've been reflecting on your story. It's powerful. Have you considered sharing it on a larger scale?" I took a moment to think about his words. "I've considered it, Father, but I have my concerns. What if it puts me in jeopardy? What if it creates even more issues for my family?" I expressed my fears. Father Sergei listened intently, understanding where I was coming from. "Your worries are completely understandable, my son, but consider how many individuals might find inspiration in your story. Think about the Muslims who are seeking truth, perhaps without realizing it." His words struck a chord, and I recalled my vision when Jesus revealed my purpose to me. "You're absolutely right, Father," I admitted, my mind racing. "But how should I begin this journey?" We put our heads together and decided that the best starting point would be for me to write down my entire story. Father Sergei offered to assist me in refining it and translating it into Russian for the church's website. Additionally, we arranged a few speaking engagements where I could share my journey with the local Orthodox community and anyone else interested. Writing down my testimony proved to be an emotionally charged process. As I reflected on my near-death experience, my meeting with Christ, and my path towards orthodoxy, I found myself reliving each moment. At times, the emotions would hit so hard I had to pause, overwhelmed by the vividness of it all. Once I completed it, we shared my testimony on the church's site and various Orthodox forums, and the reaction was phenomenal. Messages poured in from all around the globe, both from fellow converts and longtime Orthodox believers. The support was uplifting, especially from Muslims intrigued by Christianity, though not all responses were warm. I started receiving threats from extreme groups, labeling me a traitor. Nevertheless, Father Sergei and the church rallied around me, ensuring my safety. It stirred a deep desire within me to bridge the gap between my past life in the Muslim world and the Orthodox Christian faith I had embraced. As my story gained traction, I began receiving invites to speak at Orthodox events, where I could share my experiences, clarify misconceptions about Islam from an Orthodox perspective, and assist the church in reaching out to Muslims more effectively. About a year post-baptism, I received a message that left me in shock. It was from Muhammad, my eldest son. He revealed that he had come across my story online, and it prompted him to reconsider everything he had been taught. He expressed a desire to meet. Our reunion was deeply emotional. Muhammad had a cascade of questions, and we ended up immersed in conversation for hours. By the time we wrapped up our discussion, with tears in his eyes, he asked if he could connect with Father Sergei to learn more about the Orthodox faith. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said gently after we shared a moment of prayer together. "I apologize for how I treated you and for not listening sooner." Embracing him tightly, joy flooded my heart. "You don't need to ask for forgiveness, my son. I'm just thankful that God has opened your eyes to the truth." Over the years that followed, I witnessed God perform extraordinary acts. My testimony was translated into various languages, and it reached Muslims around the globe. I began speaking at different conferences, sharing my journey while also teaching Orthodox doctrines to Muslims. It wasn't always an easy road. I encountered persecution and faced threats. Some days, I longed for the familiar comfort of my previous life. Yet every time I witnessed someone come to Christ or received a message from a reader whose life had transformed, I recognized that it was all worthwhile. Fast forward 5 years after my near-death experience, news reached me that Amina wanted to meet. She had read my story. The thought of seeing her made me nervous. I wasn't sure what would come next, but I agreed to the meeting. When I finally laid eyes on her, a wave of sadness hit me. She looked older, weary even, but there was something renewed in her gaze, a gentle softness that hadn't been there before. "Hassan," she said, her voice quavering, "I think I'm open to learning more about your faith, about orthodoxy." My eyes filled with tears as I began to share the profound love of Christ and the beauty of the church. As I spoke, I recognized that same glimmer of hope in Amina's eyes that I had once seen in Ahmad's. By the time our conversation ended, she expressed a desire to meet with Amina to start her journey into catechism. It wasn't going to be an instant transformation. We had plenty to navigate through and heal from, but slowly our family began to reunite, not as Muslims, but as Orthodox Christians. Reflecting on the journey God has guided me through, I am truly in awe. I transitioned from being a devoted Muslim to embracing Orthodox Christianity, from holding a respected leadership role in my community to enduring persecution as an evangelist. I moved from the pain of losing my family to witnessing them discover their own faith. God has been present at every turn. I'm fully aware that my mission isn't finished. Countless Muslims still need to learn about Christ and His church. Yet fear no longer holds me captive. I've experienced the truth, embraced God's love in its entirety through orthodoxy, and now I know, without a doubt, that ultimately Christ's love prevails. I'm Omar Faris, once known as Hassan Farouk, and this is my journey, how I faced death and saw Muhammad in hell, but more significantly, how I encountered Christ and found true life in His church, which has changed everything for me. The journey I've embarked on since my conversion has been nothing short of transformative. Every single day, I find myself more deeply convinced of the profound truths I uncovered during my near-death encounter, and I am continuously in awe of the faith that now shapes my life. My existence is intertwined with the rhythms of the church, the joyful feasts, solemn fasts, and the divine liturgy. These rich traditions have truly become the essence of my everyday life. The beauty and depth of Orthodox theology continuously inspire me. One of the most significant shifts has been in how I approach prayer. The Jesus prayer, "Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner," has become a comforting presence in my daily routine. I find myself whispering it while taking walks, during work, and as I settle down for the night. It's a grounding force that keeps me linked to Christ throughout my activities. Additionally, I've immersed myself in the treasured writings of the Church Fathers. The works of St. John Chrysostom, St. Basil the Great, and St. Gregory Palamas have unveiled new perspectives on God's boundless love for all of us. A beautiful revelation has been my relationship with icons. Having come from an Islamic background, where the use of images in worship was discouraged, I approached them with caution initially. However, thanks to Father Sergei, who enlightened me about their role as windows to heaven, my perception shifted dramatically. Now, I deeply appreciate these sacred images, filling my small apartment with icons. There's a profound peace I find when I pray before them. Of course, not everything has been smooth sailing. I've encountered challenges, especially from my previous Muslim community. There have been moments when people have confronted me on the street, and I've lost count of the threatening messages I've received online. In those tough moments, I remember Christ's teaching to pray for those who mistreat us, and I include them in my prayers. My efforts to reach out to the Muslim community are gaining traction, and with my bishop's encouragement, I've initiated a small ministry dedicated to fostering dialogue between Muslims and Orthodox Christians. We produce literature, organize workshops, and provide support to those curious about our faith. Witnessing fellow Muslims embracing Christ has been one of the most rewarding aspects of this mission. Each baptism resonates with my own journey, and fills me with heartfelt gratitude for God's unfailing kindness. Another joy on this path has been watching my family embrace orthodoxy. When Amina began her catechism, our younger children expressed their desire to participate too. Seeing the joy on their faces when they receive Holy Communion, or hearing them sing hymns, fills my heart with happiness that's hard to express. Of course, there have been challenges along the way. Adapting to life as Christians in a predominantly Muslim environment hasn't been easy for them. They've faced the loss of friends, endured teasing at school, and navigated significant changes in our lifestyle. Yet through these difficulties, I've witnessed their faith grow stronger and more resilient. As for me, I'm delving deeper into theology these days. With the support of Father Sarge, I've embarked on formal studies. Each lesson reveals to me just how vast, beautiful, and rich our faith truly is, and it humbles me to realize how much I have yet to learn. I've also discovered joy in various acts of service, be it reading during Mass, engaging in charity work, or simply tidying up the church. Each of these little tasks feels like a heartfelt offering to Christ. Reflecting on my past as a Muslim, it's clear that God was preparing my heart for this transformative journey. The emphasis on prayer, surrendering to God's will, and living a righteous life in Islam acted like guiding lights that led me toward the deeper truths I've embraced now. There are still moments when I feel a pang of sadness over the years spent in spiritual darkness and the challenges my family faced during my conversion. But then I recall the words of St. Paul, reminding us that God works everything for good for those who love Him. As I sit here writing, I'm gearing up for a speaking tour that will take me across various communities nationwide. I'll be sharing my story and discussing effective ways to share our faith with Muslims. This is a serious commitment for me, and I'm constantly seeking God's guidance through prayer. Transitioning from Islam to Christianity has imparted many lessons, but one stands out: the astounding depth of God's love. The God I now know is not a distant presence. He's a loving Father who became one of us to save humanity and continues to reveal Himself through the Church and the sacraments. While I'm unsure of what the future holds, whether it brings joy or sorrow, comfort or struggle, I find solace in knowing that Christ will always be right beside me, and that's more than enough. I'm Omar Faris, and this is the story still unfolding. Once lost in the misunderstandings of Islam, I found Christ, who revealed the truth and embraced me in His church. Every day, I find myself grateful for the new life I've embraced in Him. It's all thanks to God for everything. If my incredible journey from Islam to Orthodox Christianity strikes a chord with you, don't hold back. Go ahead and like this, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep up with more uplifting stories of transformation through Christ. Feel free to share this video with anyone who might be seeking the truth. Your small gesture of sharing could just set someone on the path to a deeper faith.